asked about his announcement that the U.S. military hit with a missile, presumably a boat allegedly being used by Venezuelan drug cartels. This is the second one in recent weeks. The president posting this video appearing to show the moment that the U.S. military hit this boat. CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand is here with me. Natasha, this is now the second such strike by the U.S. on an alleged drug cartel vessel. Tell us more.
We really don't know a whole lot. Just like the first strike, we don't know, for example, what kind of munition was used. We don't know for sure how the U.S. was able to get the intelligence about who was actually on this boat and whether they could know for sure who was operating that boat and whether they were, in fact, even members of a drug cartel. There is a lot that still needs to be disclosed about these military operations against these boats that are in the Caribbean, because even when they were briefing Congress last week, the Department of Defense, they were not able to definitively tell lawmakers and staffers that the targets of these operations were definitively members of that drug cartel that the president has designated as a foreign terrorist organization, Tren de Aragua. The whole argument that the administration is making here is that because these are alleged members of that drug cartel and because they were designated as foreign terrorist organizations, the president therefore has the authority to carry out operations against them. But we don't know, even from President Trump's tweet today or his post on Truth Social, just who these people were in this boat. But the U.S. military has said repeatedly, and so has President Trump, that these operations are going to continue. The U.S. just sent 10 F-35 fighter jets down to Puerto Rico. They are conducting exercises with the Marine Corps down there as well. Clearly a lot of attempts to send a message here to the Venezuelans as well. But as you can see, this kind of kinetic action has not stopped. And there are a ton of questions surrounding the legality of that, particularly because as of right now, the president is really leaning on his Article 2 authority as president to carry out these kinds of attacks. But experts are saying, look, we're not in an armed conflict with Tren de Aragua, with these drug cartels. So what really is the authority there to conduct these kinds of lethal operations against these people?
Yeah, you heard the president talk about how drugs have killed so many Americans. And the other day, I think he even used a figure like 300 million Americans, which of course would be almost every American dead. Obviously, he misspoke. But beyond that is the question about the legal authority. Does that count in the kind of combat that Article 2 authority is supposed to be for? Natasha Bertrand, thanks so much. Let's bring in Professor Rachel Van Lanningham, retired U.S. Air Force JAG officer or military attorney. She's now a co-associate dean at Southwestern Law School in Los Angeles. Professor, I guess the simple question is, are these strikes legal? Who determines who's on these boats? It's not like he's taking out a military group that is posing a direct threat to the United States as we traditionally understand it.
Thank you, Jake. Thanks for having me. The lack of transparency by the administration when they're using lethal force in the American people's name in a very unique manner is deeply troubling. It sure looks like the president, on his own accord, is deciding to kill people extrajudicially, extrajudicial killings outside of an armed conflict, outside of war. And there's a binary here. The president can use lethal force, can kill people either because they're posing an imminent deadly threat against Americans or American interests, or we're at war and the president has properly identified them as being a member of an armed group, either a military or some type of terrorist organization for which he has authority to designate that we're at war against from Congress, and is killing them based on their status. And we really don't see evidence of either. He has declared that these individuals were members of some narco-terrorist organization, which is a criminal organization. And he's not applying criminal law, that is the standard law enforcement use of force regarding why not just arrest them, why not detain them and prosecute them in a U.S. court of law.
Right, although the president did declare Tren de Aragua a terrorist group, a narco-terrorist group in February, I suppose that would be the justification for treating them the way that the United States treated ISIS or Al-Qaeda. Obviously, we discussed a lot of issues like this during the Obama years when he increased the use of drones to strike individuals like Anwar al-Awlaki, the American-born, I believe he was Al-Qaeda cleric. President Trump says the strike was in international waters. What is the jurisdictional argument there? Could he make the same argument anywhere in the world?
Well, he can make an argument that we're at war against this group, but Congress didn't give him the authority just simply because he declared them a foreign terrorist organization, that we're actually in an armed conflict and therefore using law of war authorities. There are peacetime law authorities that exist, and he's exceeding those. The authorization to use military force that Congress passed in the wake of 9/11 was stretched by concurrent administrations, but it was stretched against groups such as ISIS that were engaging kinetic lethal operations against U.S. allies and U.S. interests. These drug cartels, there's been no evidence that the drug problem and fentanyl poisoning of the American people is atrocious. It's a national security threat, but it's a criminal problem. If we start just killing our way out of criminal problems, I don't see an end to that whatsoever. And so the president cannot make up authorities, whether or not it's here in the United States or internationally. Peacetime law enforcement authorities applied in those international waters unless we're at war. And I have not heard Congress say that we are at war against this organization, despite President Trump's labeling of them as such. They can be arrested, prosecuted, but not just murdered in cold blood. And that's what the president is doing in our name.
All right. Very interesting stuff. Fascinating debate. Professor Rachel Van Landingham, thank you so much for your time.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.